Good morning, this is PJ. It is Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. I hope that you had a good Labor Day weekend. The rain outside is not pretty. I'm glad it was not like that over the weekend. We have our three readings today. Our psalm reading is actually a little bit different. Our psalm reading comes actually from Isaiah. So our psalm reading is Isaiah 38, 10 through 20. Our Old Testament reading is Joshua chapter 8, verses 1 through 23. And then our New Testament reading is Hebrews chapter 12, verses 3 through 13. Let us listen in and hear the words today. This is what Hezekiah, king of Judah, wrote after he'd been sick and recovered from his sickness. In the very prime of life, I have to leave. Whatever time I have left is spent in death's waiting room. No more glimpses of God and the land of the living. No more meetings with my neighbors. No more rubbing shoulders with my friends. This body I inhabit is taken down and packed away like a camper's tent. Like a weaver, I've rolled up the carpet of my life as God cuts me free from the loom. And at the day's end, sweeps up the scraps and pieces. I cry for help until morning. Like a lion, God pummels and pounds me relentlessly, finishing me off. I squawk like a doomed hen, moan like a dove. My eyes ache from looking up for help. Master, I'm in trouble. Get me out of this. But what's the use? God himself gave me the word. He's done it to me. I can't sleep. I'm that upset. I am troubled. Oh, Master, these are the conditions in which people live. And yes, in this very condition, my spirit is still alive, fully recovered with a fresh infusion of life. It seems it was good for me to go through all these troubles. Throughout them all you held tight to my lifeline. You never let me tumble over the edge into nothing. But my sins you let go of. Threw them over your shoulder. Good riddance. The dead don't thank you, and choirs don't sing praises from the morgue. Those buried 6 feet under don't witness to your faithful ways. It's the living, live men, live women who thank you, just as I am going to do right now. Parents give their children full reports on your faithful ways. God save and will save me, as fiddles and mandolins strike up the tunes. We'll sing, we'll sing for the rest of our lives in the sanctuary of God. Our Old Testament reading today comes from the book of Joshua, chapter 8, verses 1 through 23. Here we go. God said to Joshua, "Don't be timid and don't so much as hesitate. Take all your soldiers with you and go back to Ai. I have turned to the king of Ai over to you, his people, his city, and his land. Do to Ai and his king what you did to Jericho and its king. Only this time you may plunder its stuff and cattle to your heart's content. Set an ambush behind the city." Joshua and all of his soldiers got ready to march on to Ai. Joshua chose 30,000 men, tough, seasoned fighters, and sent them off at night with these orders. "Pay me all of your attention now. Lie in ambush behind the city. Get as close as you can. Stay alert, and I and the troops with me will approach the city head on. When they come out to meet me, just before, we'll turn and we will run. Then they'll come after us. leaving the city. As we are off and running, they'll say, they're running away just like the first time. That's your signal to spring from your ambush and take the city. God, your God, will hand it over to you on a platter. Once you have the city, burn it down. God says it. You do it. Go for it. I'll give you your orders. So Joshua sent them off. They set up their ambush and they waited between Bethel and Ai, just west of Ai. Joshua spent the night with the people. Joshua was up early in that morning and mustered his army. He and the leaders of Israel led the troops into Ai. The whole army, fighting men and all, marched right up within sight of the city, set camp on the north side of Ai. There was a valley between them and Ai. He had taken about 5,000 men and put them in ambush between Bethel and Ai, west of the city. They were all deployed. The main army to the north of the city and the ambush to the west. Joshua spent the night in the valley. So it happened that when the king of Ai saw this, the men of the city lost no time. They were out there at the crack of dawn to join Israel in the battle. The king and his troops at the field en route to Arabah. The king didn't know of the ambush set against them behind the city. Joshua and all Israel let themselves be chased. They ran toward the wilderness. Everybody in the city was called to the chase. They pursued Joshua and were led away from the city. There wasn't a soul left in Ai or Bethel who wasn't out there chasing after Israel. The city was left empty and undefended as they were chasing Israel down. Then God spoke to Joshua, "Stretch out the javelin in your hand toward Ai. I'm giving it to you." Joshua stretched out his javelin in his hand toward Ai. At that signal, the men in ambush sprang to their feet. They ran into the city, took it, and quickly had it up in flames. The men of Ai looked back and saw the city going up in smoke. They found themselves trapped with nowhere to run. The army on the run toward the wilderness did an about face. Joshua and Israel, seeing that the ambush had taken the city and saw it going up in smoke, turned and attacked the men of Ai. Then the men in the ambush poured out of the city. The men of Ai was caught in the middle, with Israelites on both sides. A real massacre, and not a single survivor, except for the king of Ai. They took him alive and brought him to Joshua. Our New Testament reading today is from the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verses 3 through 13. Do you see what this means? All these pioneers who blazed the way, all these veterans cheering us on, it means we'd better get on with it. Strip down, start running, and never quit. No extra spiritual fat, no parasitic sin. Keep your eyes on Jesus, who both began and finished this race that we are in. Study how he did it, because he never lost sight of where he was headed. The exhilarating finish in and with God. He could put up with anything along the way, cross, shame, whatever. And now he's there, in the place of honor, right alongside God. When you find yourselves flagging in your faith, go over the story again, item by item. That long litany of hostility he plowed through. That will shoot adrenaline into your soul. And this all-out match against sin, have suffered far worse than you, to say nothing of what Jesus went through. All that bloodshed. So don't feel sorry for yourself, or have you forgotten how good parents treat children, and that God regards you as his children. My dear child, don't shrug off God's discipline, but don't be crushed by it either. It's the child he loves that he disciplines. The child he embraces, he also corrects. God is educating you. That's why you must never drop out. He's treating you as dear children. This trouble you're in isn't punishment. It's training. The normal experience of children. Only irresponsible parents leave children to fend for themselves. Would you prefer an irresponsible God? We respect our own parents for training and not spoiling us. So why not embrace God's training so that we can truly live? While we were children, our parents did what seemed best to them. But God is doing what is best for us, training us to live by God's holy best. At that time, discipline isn't much fun. It always feels like it's going against the grain. Later, of course, it pays off big time. For it is the well-trained who find themselves mature in their relationship with God. So don't sit around on your hands. No more dragging your feet. Clear the path for long, distant runners so no one will trip and fall. So no one will step in a hole and sprain an ankle. Help each other help each other out. And run for it. Have a beautiful day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.